Looking back on the year so far, 2016 is pretty awesome for games. Yes, we've had an overwhelming amount of disappointments, but we've also had some incredible video games to dig our teeth into. But the year's not over yet, because the last quarter of any year is always crowded with games to play. Seriously, nobody has the time to play the majority of the games that come out between September and December. But to celebrate the most congested time of the year, today I'm here to tell you my top 10 most anticipated games of holiday 2016. Well, I should have made this video in early September. Besides Forza Horizon 3, nothing of interest came out last month. The rules for this list are simple. These are 10 games coming out this year that are put in order of how much I can't wait to play them and how awesome I think they're gonna be. This is a personal top 10, but I didn't make a random list that only I can relate to. These are all games that you should keep an eye out for. Upcoming hardware releases will not make this list. I cannot wait to get my hands on PlayStation VR as well as the mini NES, but this list is strictly about the games. One last thing, Gears of War 4 will not make this list. Now that's not because I think Gears is gonna be a bad game. I can imagine Gears is gonna be awesome. I'm not putting it on the list because I don't have an Xbox One at the moment, so I pretty much want to pretend it doesn't exist until I get a chance to play it. I know it sounds pretty weird, I just want the best experience possible. So without further ado, let's see what's in store for us. Starting the list off at number 10 is Super Mario Run. So here's a weird one. The only mobile game on this list, Super Mario Run, marks the iOS debut of the most iconic and important character in the gaming industry. This will play like a traditional 2D Mario game, except you only control Mario's jumps, which means you can play this game one-handed. While it sounds like a cheap gimmick that would ruin the core Mario gameplay, anyone that's played Rayman Jungle Run on their phone knows that just being able to jump can be an awesome gameplay experience. With intriguing social features and simple, accessible gameplay that makes this game playable almost anywhere at any time, Nintendo's future on our smartphones looks very promising. Super Mario Run will be available sometime in December on iOS. Number 9. Battlefield 1. Many of us are a little sick of futuristic first-person shooters, so it's a nice change of pace to see that DICE's next epic FPS game is going to take place during World War I. An almost unexplored time period in video games, Battlefield 1 seems to blend the series' signature frantic, large online multiplayer matches with the type of combat used during the First World War. But instead of feeling slow, wonky, and unvaried, Battlefield 1 still retains the fast-paced, strategic combat of its predecessors by retaining the same feeling players find throughout all the Battlefield games. Graphically, the game looks stunningly realistic, with incredible sound design and attention to detail throughout all the game's presentation. While the campaign may be a visually stunning yet underwhelming experience, and while it may not come with enough meaningful content like Star Wars Battlefront did, people are just happy they get to fight in such a historic time period. Just make sure you manage your expectations. Battlefield 1 comes out on October 21st. Number 8. The Walking Dead, a Telltale series, A New Frontier. Before we get started on this, I'd like to inform you on how much I hate the title. Instead of just saying that this is the 3rd season of The Walking Dead, they just pretend like the other seasons didn't happen so outsiders who haven't played the previous games can get on board with this. Plus, A New Frontier? Can anyone think of a more overused cliche title than that? Alright George, enough about the name, let's talk about why it's on the list. Season 2 ended in the middle of 2014 with multiple endings that left players in completely different predicaments compared to one another. Telltale wants to continue the emotional story of our favorite character Clementine, except now she is much older than we remember. While not much info has been released, I'm looking forward to see how Telltale continues Clementine's story. Season 2 did have its fair share of problems, but it was an emotional roller coaster. While I am nervous that Telltale may screw parts of this up, those of us who are as emotionally invested as I am have to continue to see where this life-changing story takes us. And if you haven't played Telltale's The Walking Dead yet, you have to play Season 1 immediately. I'm just saying, you won't regret it. The first episode of The Walking Dead, a Telltale series, A New Frontier, will come out later this year. Number 7. Watch Dogs 2. Many of us were incredibly disappointed when the original Watch Dogs was released in 2014. I wasn't disappointed because my expectations weren't that high to begin with, but damn, that game was the definition of mediocre. So, understandably so, I was a little skeptical when Ubisoft announced Watch Dogs 2, but I'm now convinced that this is going to be a fun game to play. But currently, I despise the tone of the story and can't stand the thought of being around characters that seem to be Ubisoft Montreal's definition of cool, with their dank memes and annoying attitude, and wow, I sound really old. But the virtual recreation of San Francisco seems to evoke a real sense of place, with an incredible attention to detail and meaningful things to do and see with fantastic visuals. The gameplay looks a lot more fun too, with more varied combat, new toys at your disposal, much better mechanics for hacking, and improved control over your character. While Ubisoft has been following a very particular pattern of disappointment and repetition of the games during the last few years, I'm cautiously optimistic to explore the beautifully rendered land of San Francisco, a place I will love to live at in the near future. Watch Dogs comes out on November 15th. Number 6. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I know, Infinite Warfare is ranked higher on this list than Battlefield 1, I am aware of that, but this is my list, so you're gonna have to give me a moment to explain myself. Infinite Warfare is the latest Call of Duty being made by Infinity Ward. Taking place even further in the future than Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare seems to be a true sci-fi first-person shooter. While I know many of us, myself included, wanted to see the Call of Duty series stray away from futuristic settings, when you set those feelings aside and consider what Infinite Warfare is, this looks like it's going to be a great game. The campaign looks to be one of the best single-player experiences the COD series has seen in recent memory, with a terrific cast featuring actors such as Kit Harington and Brian Bloom, and the script and story being written and directed by previous Naughty Dog writers. Gameplay-wise, there have been some notable additions and improvements, including actual space combat, side missions, and a wide array of customizable gear. Plus, part of the game takes place in space, and Infinity Ward's goofy 80s take on the overdone zombies mode seems to be a nice change of pace, and plus there's David Hasselhoff. But I will admit, I'm not too impressed with the multiplayer. People are bashing Infinite Warfare for not being what they wanted from a Call of Duty game. But regardless, this has the potential of being a real game changer for the series and maybe the gaming industry in general. Infinity Ward wanted to make something that was as fresh as Modern Warfare was 9 years ago, and while maybe not at the same level as Modern Warfare, this could be something fresh and exciting. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare comes out on November 4th. Number 5. Mafia 3. By the time you watch this video, Mafia 3 might already be out, but at the time of writing, it hasn't come out yet, so I'm allowed to say why I'm excited for this. The first two Mafia games had incredible stories that I was so enthralled in, with characters that truly meant something to me. Mafia 3 looks to also contain a fantastic story with memorable characters, but it looks like it's going to take things a little differently. As Lincoln Clay, a black man who never had a family to call his own, you've just been discharged after serving time in the Vietnam War, and now live in a fictional version of New Orleans, living the Mafia life. 1960s New Orleans is a fantastic setting for open-world crime drama, and Mafia 3 seems to fully embrace the time period and setting with a terrific soundtrack, astounding attention to detail, and the unfortunate racism and crime that was happening at the time. The actual gameplay does look like fun, but exploring the authentic open world, and more importantly, experiencing what may be an incredible story, is why I can't wait to revisit the series again. Mafia 3 comes out on October 7th. Number 4. Titanfall 2. Hey look, another futuristic first-person shooter. The original Titanfall was a wonderful game due to its unique combat mixture of verticality, traversal, weaponry, and most importantly, the Titans you control. Unfortunately, it didn't have a lot of staying power due to the lack of significant content upon release and the absence of a campaign. With Titanfall 2, we're getting a campaign and it looks to be a lot of fun. It seems to explore the bond between a pilot and his Titan, and from the gameplay we've seen, this looks to be an enjoyable, possibly emotional ride. But Titanfall 2 is this high on the list because the multiplayer looks fantastic. The core gameplay of Titanfall's multiplayer is already amazing, with new game modes, completely new Titans to control, weapons and gear such as the grappling hook, as well as absolutely free DLC, and this looks to be another multiplayer game I'm going to be playing with my friends for quite a while. Titanfall 2 comes out on October 28th. Number 3. Final Fantasy 15. My relationship with the Final Fantasy series is almost non-existent. I tried again to Final Fantasy 1, 3, 7, 8, 10, and 13, but I couldn't find myself enjoying those games. After much digging around, I realized that the Final Fantasy games are products of their time. Back when Final Fantasy 7 was released, for example, it set the bar for engaging characters, captivating stories, great turn-based combat systems, and wonderful world design. But as time passes, Final Fantasy games become outdated fairly quickly, and by today's standards, aren't as easy to enjoy. Enter Final Fantasy 15, which seems to be the best game of the series since the golden age of Final Fantasy, which I was barely alive for. Set in the graphically and artistically beautiful world of Eos, which is basically a modern-themed Earth with fantasy elements, you play as Prince Noctis. You and your best friends then go on a road trip to save the world or something. I don't know, I'm trying to stay away from spoilers so I don't really know what's going on. There are many reasons why I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 15. It's beautiful and absolutely gorgeous. It's a magical yet familiar world I can't wait to explore. I'm already attached to some of the characters in the game, which is going to make me quickly care about the story and their adventure. The combat system looks like a pleasant change of pace, and overall, this just seems like a magical adventure. Final Fantasy games are essentially epic, emotional adventures that give you memories for life. That's what fans of the series tell me. I've never experienced that magic, and I truly believe that this will be the journey I won't soon forget. Final Fantasy 15 comes out on November 29th. Number 2, Dishonored 2. Dishonored is a fantastic game that if you haven't played it, you need to go through it before you play this one. Basically, it's a stealth action first-person game that takes place in Dunwall, one of the most immersive locations I've ever explored in a video game. The game let you play the way you wanted, with fantastic powers, weapons, incredible level design, and an excellent story. Dishonored 2 takes place after the first game, with the older Emily all of a sudden dethroned. Cue revenge story. You can play the entire game as either Corvo or Emily, and both of them have varying abilities and different playstyles. The new location you explore looks breathtaking, with environmental storytelling throughout every inch of the world. Some developers claim that every object tells a story, but Arkane Studios are true masters of environmental storytelling. The combat is a lot more refined, varied, and even more experimental than the first game, with levels that are surprisingly more intricately crafted and complicated. Basically, Dishonored 2 is going to be a better version of the first game in almost every regard, with fantastic world building, combats, and level design. This may be one of the most rewarding and possibly best games of the year. Dishonored 2 comes out on November 11th. And finally, here is my most anticipated game for not only holiday 2016, but really one of my most anticipated video games of my short life. Number 1, The Last Guardian. No, The Last Guardian will not be a masterpiece. Graphically, it is not the best. It may play and feel like an older game. The Last Guardian will not be perfect, and that's fine. The only thing I want is for this game to immerse me in its stunning world and let me admire its beautiful art direction, but most importantly, like its predecessors Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, all I want is a story that will hit me in the feels so hard that like other games, it might just change my life. I've been playing video games my entire life, but I started taking the medium seriously in 2009, which is when I started to understand the industry, play as many video games as possible, and keep up to date with every game that's coming out. I watched my first E3 in 2009, and I believe that was when The Last Guardian was announced, and I was immediately hooked. I couldn't wait to play it. I was excited that there was a game none of my friends have heard of, that I cared about, and that the whole industry cared about. I honestly can't fathom the fact that I was 11 years old when I first saw The Last Guardian, and that it still isn't out yet, but it's actually happening. The Last Guardian is finally coming out, and for many of us, this is a personal moment that we have been waiting a long time for. It won't be perfect, and some people are going to be disappointed when they first look at it. But if you just understand what you're getting into, then this can be life-changing. This is it. It is finally happening. The wait is almost over. The Last Guardian comes out on December 6th. So those are my picks for games I'm most looking forward to this year, but more importantly, I want to know what you can't wait to play. So please, let me know in the comments below what game you can't wait to play, and if you're up for the task, maybe make a top 10 list of your own. For more video game reviews, top 10s, slightly interesting opinions, and stupid stuff that take place in bathrooms, then welcome to Bathroom Gamers. Thank you for watching, and stay fresh.